instead of giving it all away, you kind of fill it up, fill it up, fill it up, and you're like, oh my God, I have so much. I want to share because it's fun. Sharing it's fun, but it's not coming from the place of you must share. It comes from the place that, wow, it feels so joyful to share.
I'm so happy to be here today with my dear, dear friend and colleague, Mariya Shiyko. Masha is an incredible healer, teacher, and entrepreneur who is creating this fabulous course that is entitled Pay Yourself for Joy. And this is a juicy online course coming out in December. And I wanted to bring Masha here to talk with all of us about how we can pay ourselves for joy and how we can bring this greater sense of ease and abundance into our relationships with work and money. So Masha, thank you so much for being here.
It's my pleasure. I'm really excited to share.
So Masha, we are friends and I know some about your background, but I would love to hear from you about what inspired you to create this course and to hear you speak in your own words about your journey in starting to transform your relationship to work and money.
Wow, this is a huge question. So I come from, my background is Russian. I come from a very hardworking family where you have to work very, very hard and make very little money. There is very little focus on contributing to the world. It's a kind of a bubble where you do the work, you work hard, you get salary, and whether you contribute to the world or not, it's a secondary thought. And I think the reason for that is because of the mindset of scarcity. So the impact of personal actions and profession is not so much considered, simply because there is no room for that. There is no overflowing cup. Like you can only serve and help when your own cup is full and overflowing. And so my journey has been really of filling my own fucking cup to the brim. And so it's beginning to overflow now.
Yes, it's the overflowing cup. Amazing.
It's taking time, but it's beginning to overflow.
I can see it. I can feel it. Oh. Yeah. Amazing. And when you say that phrase, filling your cup and my cup is overflowing, what does that mean for you?
For me, it's all about self-love and loving the parts of myself that are in pain or they have needs or desires that I have overlooked. So it's very much, you can say it's a initially selfish journey, the selfish journey of looking within and saying, what do I need? What do I want? What do I feel even? So it's really fascinating because it's initially it feels like moving a little bit in the opposite direction of helping other people. It's like, what does Masha need? What does Lindsay need? But I think because so many people are not necessarily taught to consider their needs and self-care, maybe I need extra hour of sleep today, or I need to walk outside, or I need to meditate, or I need to nourish my body, because we come collectively from a culture where personal needs are largely ignored, then this leaves my own cup completely empty. And for that very reason, people feel so tired and exhausted at work, so they don't even have a concept that they can be creative, because to tap into creative energy, to begin to create, and the overflowing cup is the energy of creativity, is the energy of source, of, you can call it divine energy, universe energy. But to tap and to connect to this energy, you really need to include self-care, spiritual practices, and listening to yourself deeply, to your needs, accepting yourself just as you are.
Yeah. And how do you find that process of transformation for you and for your clients, going from this place of having this depleted cup when it comes to work to feeling like you're overflowing?
That's a great question. So I feel, well, first it takes time. It's not, and it takes commitment and it takes effort. So I would say to undo a lot of this emptiness and maybe of the having not a full cup, it's actually effort, because I think many people, they put effort, and I know that we come from a culture of hard work. But if we use this hard work to fill our own cup, like put all this focus and effort and discipline towards filling our own cup, it begins to fill. And so instead of giving it all away, you kind of fill it up, fill it up, fill it up, and you're like, oh my God, I have so much. I want to share because it's fun. Sharing, it's fun, but it's not coming from the place of you must share. It comes from the place that, wow, it feels so joyful to share.
Mm. Yeah,
It's
Masha.
healthy, like it's mental, it comes from the place of like having mental health and physical health and spiritual health.
Yeah. Yeah, Masha, everything you're saying is resonating so deeply with me. And I know my background growing up was coming from this more Protestant Presbyterian work ethic. And there was this sense of martyrdom when it came to service and work, where it was like, you should be doing something for other people. You should be giving and providing and helping those in need. But I found myself in a place where I felt completely depleted. It was like I was trying to give something to other people that I didn't have, almost like if you have no money, but you're donating all this money to help the homeless, it's like, I don't have anything to give. And then I would feel sort of like resentful when I would like put out things or do content or create things, because I was like, I'm not receiving anything. And it wasn't sustainable. It felt like, I was like, well, I'd rather just not work. Like, I'd rather not work than work and feel constantly depleted.
Makes
So what
complete
would you
sense.
say to someone like me who's like maybe has a little bit of that, money equals sacrifice, money equals pain, conditioning? Like, what would you say to help me shift that?
Well, I think the way you've approached it don't work. It's a very good first step. Even though it's a reactive step, it's almost like a little bit teenage childlike, like
Yeah.
fuck you world step, which I've been there myself. So I completely understand.
Yeah.
I think for me, the shift happened where I have realized that it can be kind of a win-win relationship. It's not when I give somebody wins, which has been the case in my previous work. Like I gave, and I won very little back. And so it felt very much similarly to you. It felt like, why am I putting all this effort? Why am I spending my intellectual, creative, spiritual energy giving where I'm not appreciated and there is not much coming back to me? And I think the goal is to have a kind of give and take. So it's a flow. It's really a flow like of breath in and breath out. And because if you just exhale, you're going to go pale and blue. And if you just inhale, like air is going to come out of your ears. So there needs to be a balance of inhale and exhale. And that is so relevant to work of give and take, give and take.
Yeah, so I'm just imagining a circumstance like maybe someone's in an office and they're feeling like they're overwhelmed, and their boss comes up to them and like says like, hey, Lindsay, can you do this thing for me? And I notice myself feeling super like resentful or angry about it. Like, what should I do in that kind of moment?
Well, the first answer that comes to me is the word boundaries, which is not necessarily practiced at many workplaces. And boundaries is just simply my ability to say yes or no. So my mentality, my view on a lot of the workplaces is actually slavery. When you tell someone do this, you expect that they have no choice and no free will of agreeing or disagreeing or even making their schedule. So for instance, you might say, no, I cannot do this right now, but I can do this tomorrow, simply because today I already have a lot on my plate. There are so many creative ways in which you can practice boundaries and expressing your needs in work relationship. I think it comes with communication, understanding what your needs are, and also understanding how to spend your resources creatively. So you can be working for yourself and having your own business where you are your own boss. But I think in some cases, it's not realistic. You need to have a workspace where boundaries are practiced. And frankly, sometimes you want to have a work environment with 20 people and not just one person, like a solopreneur. And so in any community, which is whether it's the work community or any other kind of community, there is always limitation on time, effort, space, and shared resources. So communication and kind of bringing people on the same page is a practice. And another really important thing is inner work, which I want to bring up. So in my opinion, and I think this is also part of the course, emphasizing how important it is to do the inner work, is that when people don't do inner work, they often create conflicts, projections in a workplace, which might have to do with their mom or dad or someone else. And so I have seen so far maybe 1 or 2 companies with 10 to 20 employees where inner work is mandatory. Like basically, one is an investment banking company, which is completely fascinating to me. So everybody who works in this company, they must do inner work. This is a prerequisite. And there is a coach on staff who helps people. And so that helps to limit how people communicate, solve conflicts, which are inevitable in work environment. And so I wish there was like one very simple answer for your question, but I think it really depends on the context, and it's a combination of things.
And what do you think gets in the way of people from making that shift into that? You talked about the process of in starting to fill your own cup. It can sometimes feel like it's selfish because you're starting to prioritize yourself and prioritize your needs. What do you feel like gets in the way of people from taking that first step to say, hey, I'm depleted here. I need to change something. I need to give to myself. Why is it that we struggle so much to do that?
Well, I've noticed that there are some gender differences for men and women, but surprisingly, they are somewhat similar things. So it really depends on the culture, and a lot of it is mindset or feeling, like feelings of guilt or shame or fear. So for instance, to ask and say, hey, I need to sleep a little bit more today. And if you have a child at home, you might literally feel like the worst mother in the world because you're saying, I'm going to sleep when I could be spending time with my baby. And so it's not an impulsive decision. So it's more of kind of you are combining rational choice with intuition. So while you might be taking very specific steps like hiring a nanny or asking your partner to be with a child, but there's still a little bit of sense of guilt. And I think for women, kind of this emotional reaction, and for some men, emotional reaction sometimes can overtake the amazing results. So some women might feel quite uncomfortable feeling like a bitch. But sometimes it's necessary to feel like a bitch to actually do what's good for everyone at the end. And I think for men, it's very much this feeling of duty. Like if I work for 25 hours out of 24, it means I'm a good soldier. And so it's like, hey, dude, slow down, put your weapons down. We're not in a battlefield. So I think for men, it's like the sense of honor and duty, which is associated with work. And you can actually have the same results by working less and spending time with your, with your partner or your kids, which is, I think, is so necessary, because parental involvement in childcare is important, and spending quality time with your partner is very important for relationship.
Yeah. When you said the word guilt, it really resonated with me. This feeling of guilt or shame. And that I noticed when you were speaking, it reminded me of just something that happened last week where I was hosting an event. A person had texted me the day before saying, hey, can we shorten this event? Can we change it? I said, no problem. We're going to shorten it a little bit. And then the morning of this event that I was hosting, she texted me saying, hey, I'm going to be coming an hour late. Is that okay? Can I still come? And I noticed myself meditating on it and thinking, okay, how does this feel? Does this feel good to me? And I was like, you know what? What actually feels best is to tell her, hey, I would love you to come. However, this is a closed container. I need to respect the time and the container I'm setting for the group. And if you're not able to come, you can come maybe 15 minutes late. That's okay. But if you come an hour late, then that's not going to work and it's going to be too difficult for the group. And it was one of those moments where I stepped up and I said, okay, what feels best in this moment? And I noticed myself judging myself like, oh, that's so harsh. You should be accommodating. That's not very kind. Or even this fear part of me thinking, oh, well, if this person doesn't come, maybe her brother doesn't come. And if her brother doesn't come, then maybe no one's going to come. So I guess I should just let them come late because I want them to come more than not. But I realized that was coming from a place of fear and scarcity within me. Like, rather than trusting and valuing what I had created and say, okay, this is the opportunity, you're welcome to join us. And not in a judgmental way, just saying, here's where the line is. I would usually just be accommodating. So I told her, I texted her, I said, hey, that really doesn't work for me. And here's why, and you're welcome to come up to 15 minutes late. And she made it work. She found a way to come there on time. And I was like, this is amazing, because it felt like it was elevating both of us. Rather than me condemning her for being, late, or for her for just me accommodating whatever was happening. So it was really this shift, this emotional shift within me, noticing and being aware of my own reaction, which you mentioned, like that feeling of, in my case, shame, fear, guilt, to coming into like a higher elevation of, okay, what can feel best in this moment? And then what decisions can I make in my business, for example, to support that feeling of greater self-respect and integrity.
I'm so glad you did this. It's huge. I mean, it's a little micro step, but I feel that it's really an accumulation of these small choices that we make on a daily basis. That's amazing.
Beautiful. So Masha, I would love to hear a little bit more about this course you're creating. And we've been talking about this process of paying yourself for joy. And I'd love to hear a little bit more details about when the course is, how people can find out about it, how they can stay in touch with you, and what they can expect if they choose to dive deeper into this adventure.
So we begin in December 2nd, and there will be an online component and a live component. We go for 8 weeks with 2 weeks break for Christmas and New Year's. So from December 17th until January 3rd, we're taking a break to celebrate and rest. And to know more and to hear more, beginning November 17th, I will be sharing more about the content so people can learn more and make informed decision whether this is the right course for them or not. I'm also happy to answer their questions, and then they can register just a few days before December 2nd. And to stay in touch, please subscribe to my email list on my website, mariyashiyko.love, MARIYASHIYKO.LOVE. So I will be sharing for 2 weeks plenty of information about the course so people can learn more about me, about the content, and basically get their questions answered.
Amazing. Yay. Thank you so much for sharing, Masha. Thank you for
Thank
joining
you.
us.
Thank you. Thank you. I always love talking to you.
Yes. Yes.
Thank you.
Well, take care, everybody. Pay yourself for joy, fill your cup, check out Masha's website, and hope to see you soon.